Welcome to Aging is for Everyone. I'm Marian Deutschman, sitting in for Laura Mondello. Today's topic is Buffalo's urban farming. Now, urban farming is something that is catching on all over the country, even globally. Why? Well, local produce doesn't have to travel a long distance to get there. You can enjoy local produce in season. It's the freshest produce, and we have an expert here. Our first guest is Donna Picard from the Massachusetts Avenue Project, which is popularly called MAP.
Yeah.
Tell us about MAP.
Sure. Well, the Massachusetts Avenue Project is a community-based organization. We have been around since 1992. It was formed from residents who just got together and wanted to really improve the neighborhood and provide some alternatives for youth. And the organization has been through a lot of changes over the years, but...
And you've been there for how many years?
For 16 years.
So you're the first, you said you were the first employee?
Yes. So I have seen the history, and really our current program, Growing Green, which is our urban agriculture program that trains young people. We work with teenagers 14 to 20 years old, and we employ them. We give them jobs and job training around how to grow their own food, where their food comes from. We train them on food policy issues. They have their own youth-run business, so they learn some business skills. They learn how to grow food and distribute that food. Part of our mission is really to improve healthy food access, especially in neighborhoods that don't have easy access. So if there's no grocery store in your neighborhood, if you're not within walking distance of a store that carries fresh produce, those are the places that we like to go with our produce.
Now, it sounds as though you strategically select those 14 to 20-year-olds. So they have to be urban? Live in an urban area?
Yes, for the most part, we prioritize kids that are urban, kids that are low income. Most of our kids, because we're located on the west side of Buffalo, come from the west side, but we do also get some kids from the east side and occasionally from North Buffalo. But when we select kids, it's really based on those two criteria.
So now they grow it, the food, they create it into a product and sell it?
Yeah, so they right now have 3 products, salad dressing, a chili starter, and a salsa. And when they first come up with their product ideas, they do use some of the produce from our farm to kind of work out the recipes. But then once they figure out the recipe and batching that up, then we source that produce that goes into the products from other local farms. So
now, I know that you have a new building.
We do.
And you were very proud of that because over that 16-year period, MAP has changed from the time you first became an employee. You had a building that burned down in 2005.
Yes.
And now you have what? What's coming?
Our new project, and we don't have the building yet, but we are working on a capital campaign to raise money to create a new training center at our farm. Our farm is on Massachusetts. We do own a house there, but the house was built as a residential building. It wasn't really created to have, space for training and space for a teaching kitchen and, space for cold storage for food. So our new training space will really be a community hub for all those things. We'll have training space that we can use with our kids, but we can also we do a lot of training with the community. Last year.
For entrepreneurs, small businesses?
Not exactly that, but training around how to grow your own food. We do a lot of training and tours with people. Schools bring their kids to our farm all the time for field trips. And so being able to provide that training to the community in a building that is set up for that. We also want to have a teaching kitchen because we do a lot of nutrition education, both with our young people, and we hope to be able to expand that to the community as well.
And you were the recipients of the Junior League Show House funds.
We are.
So that was the start for the building? Was that
Yes,
it?
those were the first funds we got in the door, and we're very grateful to the Junior League. They were a fabulous partner throughout that process. And we just found out on Friday that we were also awarded a $150,000 grant from the Patrick Lee Foundation. So we're we're more than halfway to our goal of our capital campaign.
And your goal is?
Is about $675,000 we need to raise for the project.
75,000. So can people help you? When is this
Yes.
capital campaign going on? How can people find out more about making contributions to the organization?
Sure. Yeah, you can definitely go to our website. We have a place to donate on our website, and we are hoping to have some more events and things to let the public know about the project. But if you're interested, certainly you can call me. We are very excited to share the news and really inform the community of what we're trying to do. So.
And your phone number is that's on Grand Street now,
Yes,
right?
it's on Grant Street, 882-5327, extension 2. But again, you can go to our website too and find out more information.
So you have a Growing Green project. You have teens that you're helping. You're training the community. It's a very worthwhile organization.
Thank you.
I want to thank Diane for raising our awareness of the value of MAP and its projects. It's really for all ages, isn't it?
It is.
So we'll be right back with the next segment of Aging is for Everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. I hope we got welcome to Aging is for Everyone. We're continuing our discussion on Buffalo's urban agriculture. I'm Marian Deutschman, filling in for Laura Mondello. Our guest is Melissa Fratello of Grassroots Gardens, a Buffalo special place, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I know there are lots of good things that happen with urban agriculture. Not only does it add greenery to cities, it can do special things to prevent harmful runoff. I mean, there are a whole lot of things, but you explained for me the benefits that Grassroots Gardens uses to promote agriculture in the community.
Sure. So Grassroots Gardens, I'll give you a little bit of a history of the organization and how we've evolved.
That would be great.
To start focusing in on food policy and food access. Grassroots Gardens was established in 1992, just like Massachusetts Avenue Project.
Oh, really?
Massachusetts Avenue Project actually started as a grassroots garden and has grown into what they do today. So they've been a long-standing partner. But when we first began, the organization was established by a gentleman named Milton Zeckhauser. And he saw that, the city was dealing with a lot of blight from vacant lots and organized with neighbors to start creating community gardens.
So you're reclaiming public spaces.
Exactly. Reclaiming public spaces, taking those vacant lots and turning them into opportunities for community revitalization. And while in the beginning, the focus wasn't necessarily primarily on food, Milton always saw that as a benefit. And one of the first gardens was a garden in partnership with the food bank. And they call it Zeke's Garden. So, as time has gone on and we have started to recognize food insecurity as being a major issue in our city, in many neighborhoods throughout our city.
What do you mean by food insecurity?
So food insecurity is when, specific communities and people in specific communities don't have fresh, healthy produce readily accessible
'Cause they're not
and
close to a
affordable. They're not
supermarket.
close to a supermarket. They may be close to a corner store, but that corner store doesn't have a variety of produce available. And if they do, it may not be affordable or in its
Maybe
freshest
not
state.
fresh,
It may be from across the country and not looking so hot when it gets to that corner
That's
store.
right.
People may not have transportation. Or the
So they
financial
grow-
means to buy healthy produce.
So they're growing their own?
They're growing their own in community gardens. And we have 75 community gardens throughout the city.
Oh, you do?
In just about every corner of the city. The only pocket where we don't really have many community gardens is in North Buffalo, but in every other area of the city,
And who
we have
works
community
those?
gardens.
Who works
We
those
have, so Grassroots Gardens facilitates the process. We offer access to the land through a lease agreement with the property owner, whether that property owner be the city of Buffalo or a private owner, and we insure the property so that the gardeners are free to work there without concerns about liability. But we empower the gardener to take control of their garden. They really own their garden. They plan their garden. They choose what they want to grow, so they can grow culturally appropriate foods. If there are certain items that they would cook with in their culture, they're able to grow that. Grassroots Gardens doesn't dictate what they do.
So
there.
out on the west side where you have a lot of refugee immigrant populations, they could grow what they choose.
And what's so wonderful about that is that the garden acts as a vehicle to connect those cultures for, new refugee populations to
Brings
sort of
them
reconnect
together.
with their homeland, but also to connect with others across
Okay.
cultures
That's
through
right.
food. And it's really exciting. We have a garden at Lafayette High School that has involvement. There are a lot of refugee students at that high school. And they're able to do that, through the garden. They're able to connect with their culture and share their culture with others, and it's really exciting.
Now, there are problems sometimes in gardens where the soil itself is not conducive to producing edible products. You could
Absolutely.
put flowers in there, but maybe
Absolutely.
not. So what do you do?
We encourage, actually, we require all of our community gardeners to grow their food in raised beds. And we also have workshops. We teach them how to build the beds themselves. Grassroots Gardens will provide the materials for the raised beds. We have workshops on composting, on square foot gardening, so they can make the most of that raised bed space. We actually did. We found out through the city had used some interns to do a study of all of our gardens in the Black Rock Riverside neighborhood to see exactly how much produce they were growing in their raised beds.
Yeah.
And in their 4 gardens, 3 of them which are food producing, they produced over 600 pounds of produce that was shared among community residents. And it really is just amazing to see the impact.
So how do you collect the produce? How do people apply first to get this space?
So the process is that community groups is completely community driven. So the name Grassroots Gardens really is appropriate.
Right.
The community comes to us and says, we have this vacant lot nearby and we really want to turn it into a garden. And we do have an application process that they would go through that's in the early spring. The application is due in March. And in that application, they need to show us that they have the appropriate amount of manpower. Gardens are a great idea, but if you don't have enough people behind it, it's really too much for one person to take on. And we really want to see a minimum of 5 people involved in the garden on a regular basis.
So
and a lot of them establish work schedules. So a weekly work schedule where...
So you prepare them to do all of that.
Absolutely.
So the follow-through
Yes.
is there.
Yes.
And the planting is done. I mean, do you monitor what they do then? Or
They provide a plan to us, and we'll weigh in if we see that there's something that they want to plant that maybe won't grow in our zone. We'll let them know and offer them some substitutes. But we'll provide seeds, seedlings, soil, mulch, compost, all of the materials that they need to start up the garden. But they need to have the manpower and the plan, and we also need to make sure that that property is suitable in terms of striking up an agreement with the landowner.
And how do you deal with the fact that they might not get enough water or enough sunlight or too much?
We look at that in the application process as well. Primarily, our water source is from fire hydrants. So the City of Buffalo has offered us access to water through the fire hydrants. We get a special hydrant key and a hydrant permit from the fire department, and our lead gardeners hook right up to the fire hydrant. Once in a while, they have a neighbor that might be extra generous and will offer a water source, but primarily they use the hydrant. So we do look at the lot to see where the closest hydrant is.
Well, you're adding greenery to the cities, you're increasing shading, you're giving produce to people who might not otherwise be able to get it.
And connecting kids with food, which is so important.
They have to know where it comes from.
They know where it comes from, and they're so excited about it. We have 6 school gardens now, and we're really focusing on growing that number. There's a lot of interest throughout the school district.
So thank you, Melissa, for educating us on the
Absolutely.
benefits of community gardens. This has
Thank you.
Reclaimed public spaces. So we'll be right back with the next segment of Aging is for Everyone. Welcome back to Aging is for Everyone. We continue our discussion on Buffalo's urban farming, and I got a new description, environmentally smart green sites, from my guest. I'm Marian Deutschman, sitting in for Laura Mondello. Our guest is Mary Van Voorst. She's representing Beyond Flowers Tour and the National Garden Festival.
Exactly.
That's a mouthful. Is this a new green approach in Buffalo's neighborhoods?
It probably isn't as new as it appears, but in fact, the National Garden Festival always was about beautiful gardens. And last year, in its 4th year, we finally introduced the component about the environmentally smart gardens. And it's going to be repeated again this year. We came up with the name. In fact, Craig Coyne, one of the committee members, came up with the name Beyond Flowers because it is literally that. It's beyond flowers. And having said that, we also dubbed it Green, Smart, and not bad looking either. And our strategy really was to find all of these sites and simply make the public aware of them.
Now, this is a bus tour that's taking place in August.
Yes, it's both a bus tour and a self-guided tour.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because our primary focus is education. So we're doing a bare bones tour. It's on a school bus. It's $35, including a box lunch. And there's no air conditioning and there are no bathrooms on the bus, but we wanted to make it available to everyone. But of course, having said that, we also recognize that not everyone has $35, and there are many for whom a bus tour is not something that they would enjoy. And then, of course, the August 2nd date may not work for people. So
It's August 2nd?
August 2nd,
Okay.
from 10 until 3. And if you were to simply Google National Garden Festival, the site comes up, and look for Beyond Flowers Tour, and you will see the self-guided tour laid out there very specifically. It will tell you, it suggests a route you can take, it gives you all the addresses. Obviously,
Is
we
this
would
one
love
day
to. It's
only?
one day only, yes.
One day only, and it's a weekend?
It's on a Saturday. Yep,
On a
August
Saturday.
2nd, on a Saturday.
And when, what sites, I mean, how many sites are there that you go to with, self-guided, obviously, you can choose which
Yes,
sites you
exactly,
want.
yes.
And you give them guidance as to where they might go. On the bus tour, where do they go?
On the bus tour, there are 8 sites, and what we do is we provide a bit of history from site to site on the bus. But one of the best parts of the tour, which we sort of knew but we discovered last year, it was reinforced, is that at every site, the project leader joins us, and when they describe in great detail what used to be there, and then you see what is there now, you really understand the kind of impact you've had on the community. And the best evidence of that was Diane Picard talking about MAP, because that's our first site. And the impact there is just remarkable. Our second stop is right across the street. Push has a playground there, which was once a very large, littered city lot, and now has a picnic shelter. It has a basketball court. It has an annual cookout. And Aaron Bartley, being the smart guy that he is, he will be there with us that day, and he will point out, because you can see it from the playground, the geothermal house that Push has built, and he will take us around the corner to the rain gardens that are a signature piece of everything that Push does.
So you're not on the bus just going to each site.
Oh, no, you have to be prepared to get off the bus.
And you do have a person who is knowledgeable, who represents that site. It's not a narrator that...
No, not at all. We do give a little background on the bus.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And so there are 8 sites, and if you do the self-guided tour, how can you be sure that you're going to be catching the narrative on this?
You're not.
You're not.
That's the downside of it, is that you will miss out on the history, and you will miss out on the opportunity to meet the project leaders, all of whom are passionate about what they do and talk in great detail about the wonderful things that are happening on those sites, and you can't have it both ways, I guess. But
Yeah, but
clearly,
you're giving
yes,
two options to people.
They're worth visiting even if you can't be on the bus, and that's why we have provided the self-guided tour.
So it's not like, we've become known in Buffalo for the Garden Walk.
Right.
And that's a self-guided tour
Right.
as well. And it covers something like 380 Buffalo gardens.
Yeah.
This is not at all the same. You're looking, when I mentioned at the beginning of the program, environmentally smart green sites. This is reclaimed, this is changed?
Oh, it's all reclaimed land.
Okay.
Another one of the sites we go to is another Push site called the 14th Street Gardens, where there were 5 abandoned houses, and Push went in and took them out and created 28 gardens for the neighbors
Oh, my goodness.
who can, many of them are immigrants. I think about 60% of them last year were from Burma. And another is Wilkson Point, which was once an industrial dump on the water, which Buffalo was wont to do, and is now 12 acres on the water of wind sculptures and beach volleyball. It's so remarkable. We have squandered our water and many of these sites for so many years. It's so wonderful to see the kinds of changes that are happening. Next to the Central Terminal, for example, Dave Majewski, who's the project leader there, has created the Urban Habitat Project. And he was just given an EPA award for Environmental Quality Award, one of only 17 in the state who got it, for protecting public health and protecting the environment. And when you see those sunflowers on that site, they're not just beautiful, they're doing phytoremediation, they're taking toxins out of the soil. So, and there is another Dave Majewski project, which is at the foot of the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, which is a 4-acre parking lot, which is staggering. And he put a bioretention cell there. He was hired to do this. And it collects up to 4 million gallons of runoff and keeps it out of the Buffalo storm sewers, which means it stays out of our waters once again.
Do you expect visitors, tourists from other